Thank you. I hope you are enthusiastic because like of the spaghetti because they looks very yummy. But I'm going to teach you how to untangle your Python spaghetti if you have one. I hope you don't have one, but if you have one, I would help you to untangle it because for me, how did I come up with this term of Python spaghetti? It's like because I was giving a workshop back a few years ago, and someone have an environment that they do like, oh, Python, and then they pip install something, and then when they go to the Python terminal and they don't have that library, and then it turns out that the pip and the Python are pointing at different places, which is insane. Imagine anything you pip install doesn't appear in your Python. That's what happened. That's why I was interested in the topic, and I want to tell more people about like, what happened if you have like similar thing, or because sometimes for beginners it's very scary because they follow some tutorial and there are like a lot of instructions of how to install things. They may actually sometimes mess up somewhere and they don't know, and then that's what happened. Anyway, so these are my contact information. You can find me, and I forgot to put the link of these slides on here. But if you don't see the size as well, oh my god. Does it not connect? No, it's connected there. Okay, anyway, it gives me a chance to put the link of these slides here for everybody. So while you are fixing that, I'm fixing something else. Yes. Yeah, technical issues, right? Like we are all very used to it. So I would put the link of this slide deck here so everybody can see it when it connects again. You don't know how to help me? It's fine. Someone's helping, I think. Yeah. Oops, it's a bit difficult to see. Let me make it. There's a hardware problem and a software problem, and I'm solving the software problem, hopefully. Can you see it now? Yes. I see something, but it's not my screen. 1 second. This one I know how to fix. Sorry. Yeah, we should have checked all these things like before. Mirror, yeah. Woo, now it works. Woohoo! Okay, so what am I gonna do? I'm gonna go back here and I go back here. Okay, now you can see it. Now you can see the most important slide of this slide deck, which looks a bit weird at the moment, but don't worry. Grab the link, then you will have the whole slide deck, which is what I think you may or may not want. I don't know, but just in case, take a picture of that. Also, my contact information, if you want to follow me on Twitter, Mastodon, or GitHub, then please come and follow me on YouTube. I'm learning Rust. It's very fun. Watch me learn Rust if you want. So anyway, enough of the babbling. Now everything works. Let's go. I'm Cheuk, and I contribute a lot of open source library. This is a few of them. I also organize a lot of events. And I also love going to events, so this is actually the second time I've been here in this Polish city, for the second time in a year time. It's amazing. I love it. I feel like I can move here now because I know this place. So also I was help organizing EuroPython. I was the board member before, and I'm also a PSF fellow. I'm running for the PSF board of director right now. You can still vote for me if you want. The deadline is tomorrow. So if you are a voting member, please vote for me. I can represent Europe for all of you. And also I'm looking for my next role. Again, if you know any companies hiring, I'm happy to have a chat. So, and that's also me with my teddy bear. If you want to take care of that, please talk to me as well. So, do you use virtual environments? Yes, but what virtual environment do you use? PyEnv? PyEnv? Anybody PyEnv? Yeah, I also use PyEnv. How many people use VEnv? Oh, yeah, VM is also good. I'm going to show a little bit of VM things. I hope you don't find it boring because you already know. And who use Conda? Conda, some Mamba? Yeah, big support for Mamba. Okay, so we have a lot of tools, and we're going to have a look at some of them today. So, oh, I put it wrong at the wrong place. I don't know. I'm so messed up today. Sorry about that. So yeah, I already asked you like which one you use. But why do we care about the virtual environments? because we don't want the spaghetti. I told you the story at the beginning that like someone really messed up. Imagine if you install something, it's not showing up in your Python. That's not fun. So we don't want that. We want to also. There's also benefit of using different virtual environments. Avoid conflict. Sometimes back in the days, I was a data scientist. I used pandas a lot. So actually tomorrow I'm going to talk about pandas and polars. You can come to my talk again. I have different versions, like I have 2 projects that use different versions of pandas and they have different APIs. So I can't just use one version and both projects, the codes are different. So they won't work. And if I don't use 2 separate environments, I don't know how I can install 2 different versions of pandas at the same environment. It won't work that way. So so if you have multiple projects and they are kind of have different ages and they have different requirements, then you probably want to have a different virtual environment for each project. Also, you can preserve the versions. If you still have a project using Python 3.7, now it's end of life, and then a lot of things is not supported Python 3.7 again. So you may want to preserve a whole set of like variation libraries for that. I don't know why. Maybe you're not dusting it off. You're archiving the project. Maybe once in a while you take it out again. Then you better pin other versions and not upgrading them, because then they are Asians. They are, then you want to preserve them. Also, sometimes because I told you the story of I was a data scientist, right? The tools that I was using back in the time is not really useful for me right now because I'm not doing data science work. So I don't want to cluster my computer with like a lot of things that I don't use. Like I don't use PyTorch, I don't use TensorFlow, I don't use Keras anymore. I don't do those kind of very crazy like LLM and that kind of thing. So I don't use those anymore. So so I can only install what I need for each project. So. But where is your package store? If you're using different environment, then where do they go? Why do I have a space to store all these like packages? How do Python found them, all right? Like that's a question that I ask myself when I see that problem of like pip is there and Python is there, but why there's 2 locations? What's going on? How does Python find your package? How can Python, like if you have multiple versions of Python, especially those PyEnv user, you have multiple versions of Python on your computer, right? How do the right version find the right packages to use? How? So I will give you a demo with the command line interface in a bit, but so this is basically the principle. Python, if you have messed around with Python, like it's actually fun to like look at what Python have. And if you have tried the syspath, a sys.path, actually you will see something. You will see that actually it stores a lot of paths of your library. And whenever you call an import statement, for example, import pandas or import requests, then Python will look at all these things you have and sys.path and try to find it. So it's very easy to say, but if and just to talk about it, so I would prove that this is what I'm talking about. Okay, so is it big enough? Yes, no, maybe a little bit bigger. I'm a bit like blind, so I have very bad eyesight. I'm not blind, but that's why I need to make everything very big. So let's have a look at this is my. So you see, I'm not using any virtual environment yet. So this is kind of my vanilla environment. I would say that like the base environment, or you can call it. So I have Python 2 and 3 for some reason. I don't know why I have Python 2 here, but somehow my computer has. So I have to Python 3, so that I'm using Python 3 specifically. And then I can enter and see. I'm using Python 3.9 for 6. Great, I'm not using Python 3.7, which you shouldn't be using it anymore. So Python 3.9, and then I can import sys. After that, I can look at sys.path and see, whoa, there's so many things. So these are all the paths that, like I said, Python, when you import another library, not sys, of course, like, well, maybe sys as well, then, but sys is in standard library, things may not be the same. But for example, if you look at requests, so request is a library that you pip install. So where do it install, right? So it will probably be one of these places. That's why when you import request, Python is going to look for it somewhere here. So there's a lot of places Python will look for. The first one is empty. It means that it look for it locally. This is probably like, because you can also import a local .py file. So this is like where Python will look for it. So if you put another .py file at the same directory, then or your working directory, then this is where Python can find it. And also, look, I would want you to have a look at the last path. This is very long. So somehow it's kind of related to Xcode somehow. I don't know why, because it's a Mac thing. But if you look at the end of this path, you see that there's something called like dot. We start from here. Oh, okay, I duplicate it. So it's like a lib. So this is like at the end here, a lib, and it's pretty difficult to highlight. Okay, lib. Python 3.9, and then side packages, right? So this is actually the pattern of how it is stored. Anyway, before I mess up more, let me do the exit. Okay, clear up the mess. So let's go back to the slides. So that is what happened when you're using the base environment. So now let's look at venv. Venv is also a standard library, just like this, that I've just used a few seconds ago. So all the standard library, they are a bit special. They just come with Python, so you don't have to pip install them. So Python actually ship with CPython, at least the standard version, not MicroPython or anything like that, but the standard Python version ship with all these standard libraries, including a package management, pip is the package management manager, but this is the environment management manager. So venv is actually your friend, that you could use it to control, to create new virtual environment and control like which environment you want to use. So there are other things like PyEnv and Poetry. Oh, I forgot to ask who is using Poetry, but anyway, maybe some of you is using Poetry. So those are actually very similar to venv by principle. Of course, they are a little bit more powerful. They have a little bit of things like, for example, Poetry, you can log it and maybe the resolver of different versions and dependencies will work a little bit differently, but the principle are the same, right? So they are designed for managing your Python environment. So to use venv, I think, so that's why I think it's worth looking at venv, because venv is one that is standard, a lot of different libraries are based on it. It's very simple. Understanding venv will help you understand other things. So when you use venv, when you create a new environment, actually, you will have a new folder. So let me show you how it works. I think this is better to show you how it works than the slides. So, for example, I have Python 3, and then I use -m. I hope you all know this. -m means that I use this library without importing it. You just run it as binary, not binary, but run it as an application. So. So this .venv is the name of your environment. So maybe I call it myenv or something. It could be anything. Oops. Yeah, can't spell and talk at the same time. So when you do this, it will create a new folder called .myenv. I usually like starting with the dot because then you can hide it away from all your other files. It's easier to see, but anyway, it doesn't matter. So if you do that, something happens. And then if you look at what you have .myenv now, which we have just created. So if you look at what's inside, right? So myenv, and then let's look at let's look at what is inside. You'll see that there's a bin, there's and other folders like include, lib, and other things. So there's a configuration file, and we are not going to look at it right now. So lib looks familiar, and oh, there's a Python 9, so what's this? And then, oh, Python 9, and side packages, oh, this looks very familiar, isn't it? Do you remember, like, I was trying to show you this is kind of a path that your sister path is actually pointing at. So right now you can see there's a pip, there's setup tools, those are things that we can import, right? Those are the Python libraries. So, for example, if you So so let's look at something first. Let's look at so PyEnv there also has a bin. So let's look at the bin. So what is in the bin? So in the bin, there's also pip again, and there's Python and Python 3, Python 3.9, all this. And then the funny thing is that there's a script called activate. So let's run this script. So source dot myend bin and then activate. So let's run it. And now you see I'm actually entered the environment now. I'm in myEnv. And then now if you run pip list, you will see that I have pip and setup tools install. So this is exactly what I saw when I look at the site packages. So now as an experiment, so let's install something. So okay, pip install. And also now I don't have to run pip3 or Python 3 because I'm in the environment. I only have one place for the pip and the Python, remember, because they all now points to the site packages that I've just showed you there. So now I can pip install request. Yeah. So now if you look at the site packages, this folder again, so you see, now we have more things. Now we have request, we have URL lib, and a lot of things certify. So if I also do pip list, you can see, these are the things that I've just installed. So you know they are all now put there in myEnv lib, Python 3.9 site packages. So to see if I run Python now, can I access those packages? I can do the same thing. I can do, let me clean it up first, Python. And then now I'm also Python 3 now. Like I said, I don't have to specify 3 because now I'm in the virtual environment and there's only one version of Python that I'm pointing to right now. Now I can import this again, and then sys.path. You see now, this time, instead of all these things, but we also have the Xcode thing, but if you look at the last thing here, it's actually this one, myEnv site packages. So now, those things that I just install, request, URL lib, or all those things, they are now accessible. I can now import them. I can now import request. And I just got a warning because I am using some maybe old version or whatever, SSL license, something. But anyway, I can import it, no problem. I only get a warning. I didn't get something like, you can't import error, and those kind of things. So it works. So this is how Python works. And VM works. So I can deactivate. That's how you escape the environment. Now I'm back to where I was. Okay, so come back to the slides. So this is how it works. Okay, so all those scripts, I think most of the time you would call the activate. That's the most important one. But otherwise, for example, when you are in the environment, when you call pip, when you call Python, they're actually running those scripts. That's running those versions of Python. It's not running your base version of Python. Because when you use VM, when you create a new environment, your base version of Python will get copied into that folder that I've just shown you. So now let's talk about Conda. So Conda works a little bit differently. Conda, well, of course, it comes with Anaconda. When if you have do data science work, you probably have used Anaconda at some point, and then you know that Conda is one of those things that's included. But Conda by itself, it's not what Anaconda is, which is like a distribution of Python and a lot of library. Conda is an environment manager, but it's also a package manager. So it's kind of like pip plus VM. So you can conda install things. So if you do conda install, kind of like pip install go to the PyPI to look for your packages by default, but conda install will go to the anaconda.org to look for your packages by default. So they look at different places and they are different distributions, but they kind of work similarly, just like grab the packages and help you install it. But also one thing about Conda that I kind of know about it a few months ago is like it's built with Python. Yay! So Conda, so yeah, it's very similar. It's also like maintain all the path and stuff. So Conda doesn't create a folder in your directory where you create the environment, but it will find a place in your computer. So you can change that, but by default, it's somewhere in your Conda directory. It will create a new new folder there. It will put all your dependencies in there, put all your packages that you have installed there. That you probably can't install, you don't pip install. You can still pip install things. It will still be put there, but again, they just look for different places to look for the packages to install for you. So Conda also work on the system level. That's why Conda can manage more than just your Python libraries. It can also manage different versions of Git if you want to, or different versions of JavaScript libraries if you want to. There are lots of different things you can manage with Conda, not just Python libraries. Yeah, so that's why it works with other languages. I sometimes use mini Conda because you know I sometimes have a project that involves other programming languages, then Conda will also have an advantage of managing not just Python, but other things. So this is all the commands that you use to use Conda. So you can create, like VM, you can create a new environment by choosing a name. You can specify the Python version, which is a little bit like a PyEnv, but PyEnv works slightly differently because PyEnv just by itself, it just helps you to install multiple versions of Python and change between them. If you want to create a new virtual environment, you have to use venv as well. So yeah, PyEnv virtual env as well. So you have to use both. So it's a kind of a plugin. So, but Conda, you can also specify the Python version, and well, you should not use 3.7.5 now. This is outdated. Should have changed it. And also, you can activate it by typing conda activate and then the name of your environment. So another thing you could do is to export it, so it become a YAML file, and then you can give it to someone else, your colleague, your open source contributors, and they can install the same environment by using conda env create and then putting the file name there. So, which one to use? A lot of times, you know, when you just started with Python, if you install CPython from Python.org and you are not doing a lot of data science stuff, maybe you are learning something else, learning how to just use Python to, maybe let's say, create some API things, you know, or then, you know, maybe venv would be the best because or maybe developing games, you know, nowadays a lot of young people are developing games. So those, like, you can use venv, it's fine, it's included there, it's the simplest to use. You don't have to install extra things. But if you started as a data scientist like me years ago, then probably you will be using Conda because you use a lot of things that Conda provided, then you can use Conda. If your project is just involving Python, if you don't involve other programming language, then venv is quite straightforward and easy to use. You know, is help with managing the Python environment is quite straightforward. You can look at what's going wrong if something goes wrong. So for Conda, it's more like if you, for example, when I use mini Conda and Conda is that when I was contributing to the Jupyter Notebook, so that also involves some, npm packages. You know, then if you have Conda, then it would also help you to manage those libraries. So if you have a web project that also involves JavaScript, then maybe Conda would be a better choice. Again, like in VM, you probably use pip install most of the time, then it's fine. But Conda, again, like you can either use Conda install because it will sometimes like get a binary that works better. If you are using a Windows machine, then that may be a little bit easier for you for some libraries. But otherwise, you know, you can also pip install with Conda. There's no problem with that. But yeah, that's your choice. A very good question that I was puzzling before I learned about all this, I was struggling because I thought that you can only have one. Like if you use PyEnv or venv, you can't use Conda. But no, actually you can use both. This is how I do it. So here I have mini Conda install. So if you look at here, I can show you that I will install it here, mini Conda. So I have mini Conda installed. So if you look at what's inside, you will see again a lot of folder. There's a bin, a lot of script is stored there, lib, so very similar. But this time to activate it, you don't go to the bin. You have to go somewhere else first. So you would have to go to extra, and then there's a profile, and then there's the conda.sh. So this file, what it does is that it will go to set up some paths for your bash. So now it will make the conda command available to you. Ta-da! So now I can use conda. Before I can't. Like if I haven't run this script, then this conda is not in my path, so I can't call this conda command. But now I can, and I can do your thing that you can do conda create and then put the new environment and all this stuff. I'm not going to do that now because I think I've been talking too much already. So these are the reference that you want to know more about VM and conda. So if you have grabbed the first slides, then you already have those. You don't have to like take a picture and type it in later or something like that. And the last thing I want to tell you is that who wants to go to Prague? A few people. Well, I mean, it's nice here, but in Prague it's also nice. So EuroPython is happening in a few weeks. So now is the last chance to get a regular price ticket. So after tomorrow, I believe, the price will increase. So if you still haven't bought a ticket but you want to go, or you already decided to go but forgot to buy the ticket, now is the best time. But if you think, well, in a few weeks I can't go, then you get another chance in September because there's another conference in Prague. So this one, the CFP is closing today. So if you have any good talks that you already have in your pocket, you can submit it right now because you only have a few hours. So please, try to look at all these amazing conferences because you have a lot of opportunity to go to Prague to drink the beer, to go sightseeing, see the museum and stuff, and also meet a lot of great people. So thank you so much, and I'll see you tomorrow at my talk again about pandas and polars. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now it's question time.
Oh, question
Yay!
time. Okay. Maybe I'll go back to the first slides just in case you want to grab the slides again. Okay. Right.
Great. So Python env managers or Docker, or env managers inside Docker?
Oh, in the Docker. So Docker is a different game, I think, because Docker is building a different image. So basically, it creates a different kernel for your application. So it's different. I would say that a lot of times, depending on your project, again, if you're just managing some like different Python dependencies, you don't need to create another Docker container to manage that. You only need to have a different Python environment, then you can keep it separate. So, but if, for example, you have installed another database, then maybe you want to keep a consistent version of database and stuff, then maybe you have to ship the whole containerized version of things. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
The question.
Okay, yeah. It's like a bit of like lag or something. Okay, so does the conda export command export all the binaries or just the configuration?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So that's just what you have installed in your environment. So if you ship it to another person, they would have to also have conda to recreate that environment, because conda will go to the places again to grab them all back. So yeah, it will be the same version because it's grabbed from the same place, but yeah, it's not like, if you want to ship the binary and everything together, you may as well pack them in a Docker image. No, I don't know. Maybe, yeah, like it's just the configuration. So.
Okay, thank you. Does conda allow installing local packages like pip does?
Oh, sorry, I want to add a little bit things to the last question. Because the thing is, like, a lot of time binary also need to work with a computer. So if you want to ship your your conda environment to your friend, I'm using Mac, and ship to my friend who use a Windows machine, so they would need a different binary to use the same package. So yeah, conda will, so that's why you ship the configuration, and conda will grab the one that works for them. Yeah. That's why it's not binary. Anyway, okay, this question. Conda allow for installing local packages like pip does? Yes, you can. You can install it locally. But because again, like pip, when you install local packages, you have to use you can type in just the local path, but I think for Conda you have to set it so it doesn't go to look it up from alaconda.org. You can also change that it actually look it up at Conda Forge instead of alaconda.org or any other. There's another one called BioConda, something like that. There's another repository. So yeah, you have to tell Conda which place to look for your thing.
Okay, thank you. And next question, how to manage development like linters and pythons and production libraries used in runtime dependencies in Conda?
Ooh, that's a very good question. I have never think about that. I know that you can do it with poetry, that you have like different, there's the dev environment, there's the environment. I don't think Conda is work like that, like poetry, that you can have different environment. You may have to have separate configurations for those. Yeah, I don't think you can. I may be wrong, but tell me if I'm wrong and you know the answer.
Thank you. And the last question, what about virtual env? Is it different from venv?
Yes, so virtual env, for example, in my machine, I use pyenv virtual env. So for example, if I type like pyenv, so I have a lot of like pyenv versions, right then, no, actually I can just show you this, pyenv virtual env. So yeah, I have the virtual env plugin, that's why I have the auto completion. So from my understanding of usage, maybe again, like correct me if I'm wrong. So if you just have pyenv, then it would just have different versions of Python, including those that is like, for example, PyPy or other like MicroPython and all these things, or like Conda, like mini Conda, and all these different versions of Python. But it's not managing your virtual environment. So, for example, I install Python 3.9, then it's just Python 3.9. I can't create multiple environments with Python 3.9. But with this virtual env plugin, I can say like I want 3.11.1, and then I create a new environment with a new name. So virtual env is a plugin for pyenv that help you to have different environment with different versions of Python. I haven't used virtual env individually, so that's why I think it's a plugin, but yeah, I'm not sure whether it's just a plugin or you can use it separately, but I usually just use it as a plugin for pyenv, yeah.
Great, thank you very much. This is it. Yeah, we don't have any more questions.